Welcome in, folks, to another great episode of I've Got a Theory. I'm your host, Henish. Excited to be joined by Chris Cota, who's the founder of the Accelerated Media Group, serial entrepreneur, Renaissance man. And the more I talk to him, it seems like he's very much got a lot in common with me in terms of our love of racing and cars and running businesses and dad and all that kind of stuff. So, Chris, welcome onto the show.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So, Chris, you've got a theory about COVID and how it was kind of a mixed blessing for you, huh?
Yeah. COVID. I mean, at first I was like, wow, this is crazy. But then all of a sudden I started to realize I'm like, you know what? Everyone's about to need to go digital. So they're about to start coming my way. And that's what happened. All of a sudden, I got really more deeper. I started teaching myself a better skill. I already know how, but when I try to learn a skill again, I pretend like I know nothing. So I taught myself Facebook ads. I was nothing but Facebook, Instagram ads all day, every day. And then all of a sudden, I start getting all these people reaching out like, hey, I need this. I need this. Can you do this kind of business? Can you do this? And I'm like, oh, shit.
What were some examples of some of the more unique businesses that reached out that said, hey, how do I go online?
The most odd example is this gentleman sells something called fodder, and it's grass for racehorses. It's performance grass for racehorses. And he has this franchise where he sells these like boxes. It's like the containers you put in your driveway and you fill them up when you're going to move.
Yep. Like a pod.
So he'll build a pod with it, does hydroponic growing of the grass, and he sells that as a franchise. He had his funnel built, had everything put together. I helped him bring in some finishing pieces, told him what kind of video he needs to make for the ad, things of that nature. And then, all of a sudden, now he's pretty much sold out of his franchises, and he's having issues right now with manufacturing and things. And that's another thing, combination through COVID, because now getting a lot of the stuff he needs, I guess it comes out of China, and there's a lot of delays on shipping and materials, and like anything from overseas, there's going to be some kind of a delay if it's not already here.
Yeah, that's true. So then you were able to sell his pods in a franchise model over throughout the country.
Yeah, and Facebook and Instagram.
And so ideally those buyers were people that maybe lived next to a horse track or where there's horse training or something like
100%. That. Targeted people that they know what this industry is, and they understand like, oh, this is a moneymaker.
So then share with me how that went. Like how many did he sell before? Then how many did he sell with your help?
I don't know his numbers before, but he called me one day. He said, stop, I'm out. Like I don't have any more until we move to phase 2. I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay, well, that's good. Problem solved. So yeah, he should be coming back here shortly, actually. He had to take a break for about 6 months, but he's still dealing with that whole manufacturing issue. So
that's kind of a unique product, like I'm assuming you've never sold grass or little pods that grow grass. How did you learn enough about his business to be able to help him and find the clients for him?
I'm like a chameleon. So when someone approaches me and I try to get in the customer's shoes, and I'm like, okay, where does your customer live? Oh, okay, this. I don't know, it just starts coming. I think it's just one of those gifts that just comes. It's like me being able to hear someone's vehicle that has a problem and I could tell them what's wrong with it just because I listened to it.
Yeah.
And usually that's spot on. So it's a similar scenario where I can see it and I envision it. So I'm like, okay, your customers, where are they? Then I go to the end goal. You want to sell how many? Okay, cool. Let's go here and let's work backwards. And then I kind of backwards engineer everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, so then how else, with COVID has, your business been affected?
Well, just for me, everyone, I don't have a niche. People are like, what niche are you in? I'm like, I can't be in a niche. I believe I have a mission, and a lot of people that come to me or through spiritual or, God sends, or, my job is to help them. So people come to me from all walks of life. You got the hydroponic grass, you've got pharmaceutical company, you have the mom and pop that owns, a pizza joint, you have this person that's trying to get their business off the ground and they're selling supplements online. You have people that are selling Walmart Walmart businesses in a box, so they help you build a whole Walmart online automatic store. I've dealt with sanitizer. So I have a client that has a smart. It's called Smart Sanitizer. It's a sanitizing machine that sits about this tall, probably say 4 feet, 4.5 feet, and you put your hands in, it'll sanitize your hands. And you could put the phone in, it'll sanitize your phone. However, that's not the real selling point. The other piece of it is there's a screen on the device, and the screen is used to sell ad space. So while people are washing their hands or doing their phones, they're watching some sort of visual ad based off of wherever these things are being placed.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you help sell those as well.
Yeah, well, basically, not really sell, but get their potential audience or customer that would be interested in having those in their business on a sales call, strategy call with them.
Yep.
So it depends on how deep the client wants me to get. We'll even literally help you like write your entire sales scripts, like everything. Listen to phone calls and understand. Oh yeah, y'all can't say that kind of stuff. Okay. So you it's a constant diagnosis until you get to the perfection. Because I find a lot of people in business have what's called, I call it analysis paralysis, where they wait till it's perfect to launch, which never happens. So you've got to at least get that little I call it an MVP, just your base model. So you can push it out there and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. But you know what? I want this to do this. When they do this, I want this to happen. If they hit this page and fill out that form, I need this message to go out and start a sequence of messages for the next 15 days or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, the key thing is, I think what we're getting at is that if you have a business, then you're saying, this is what I do, and this is the way I do it, and this is the only way I'm going to do it forever. You're going to get hurt, right? Because COVID taught you that you had to be adaptable and shift with things quickly, because now our world has just changed and now we have to do things differently. And it's the old who moved my cheese paradigm, right? It's like the cheese got moved. Now it's all online, right? Or now it's all virtual, or it's in a different way because we've got material shortages, we've got labor shortages. And I run a construction company, so we see this happening too, right?
Yeah.
We order something and like, oh, it's going to take 2 months. Surprise, 2 months later, we've changed our mind. Now it's going to take 6 months. We're like, okay, I guess we just wait another 4 months now. So it's kind of brutal, but it teaches you to be adaptable. And then we have to set expectations right for people too, saying, hey, we live in this new world where everything's changed and we think we can get something and maybe we can't.
100%. I mean, even ordering food, it's kind of came back to normal lately, but during that whole lockdown time, finding a way to eat was not the same unless you had the food in your house. Like, and all the restaurants shut down. You couldn't go anywhere. It was crazy. And then now you see what you're seeing in Australia. It's freaking nuts.
What's going on in Australia?
You can't leave your house.
I didn't know that.
It's so bad.
They're back on lockdown, huh?
It's borderline worse. It's borderline communist.
Let me ask you this. And so I know, you're probably roughly my age. How much has the messaging changed during COVID? Because initially it was like, hey, people are dying by the droves. We got to stop the death. But now people aren't dying as much. Now it's like, we got to stop people from getting COVID. And then now you have to take the vaccine, and that's going to be helpful. But I was like, if no one's dying from this thing, then why does it matter?
Well, I'm mixed on a lot of that stuff. A lot of people that are having the issues seem to either be overweight or something's already wrong.
They don't ever want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then when you talk about the V word, I don't like to say it, but when you're forcing something so hard, I'm a little sus. I'm a little suspicious.
Yeah, for sure. Guess what? You know what? Companies like Porsche, like Rolex, and some of these don't have to advertise something. Obviously, they do because people want it, right? Because it's like it's a good thing inherently. You're like, you know what? I want that. But with the vaccine, you're exactly right. It's weird they have to incent you with cash and prizes, and then they have to threaten you to take this thing. If it's so good, wouldn't I just want it because of its inherent effectiveness, right? It's like taking multivitamin. We all know it's good for you. If you take it, great.
Right.
If you don't, no big deal. But no one's forcing you to take multivitamins, right? It's kind of your
Right.
option. It should be your option.
It's well, I believe it should be your option. And not only that, when you look at kind of the concept of, okay, people try to avoid getting COVID, but guess what? We're gonna just inject it in your body. Now you got it.
You got it.
it
You're going to get the side effects from it, and it might feel worse or better than actually getting COVID. Who knows?
right. And it makes no sense. What we don't know what else is in there. Like I don't want to get into conspiracies, but
This is
you
what this is
know,
about. Let's talk conspiracies.
okay.
What
So
do you think's in there?
you know, I have reservations of some sort of a chip or some kind of a uh not really a chip, but
Some kind of
something
tracer.
that
Maybe it's something they could prove. That's the concern, and I agree with you because now that they're
right,
pushing the boosters, and here's what's happened is that with the last set of vaccines, they had these easy to forge vaccine cards, right? Now you got these fake vaccine cards that are floating around there. So the second time around, I think they're trying to be a little bit more strict and saying, hey, you have to have this vaccine card with this uniquely identifiable QR code on it, right? Or
right.
maybe, like you said, maybe they put something in there, some kind of trace amount of something so that someone later in the future can take your blood and say, yep, this person actually did get the vaccine. And here's the evidence of it because we can prove it, right? Which is true with a lot of things, right? I was watching something on Vox or something talking about, radiation from space causing bit flips in computers. If you don't know anything about this, it's super interesting. Take a look
Wow.
at it. But it's just, the fact that they can identify things that are nanoparticles from space. Of course, they can identify nanoparticles in your blood.
Right. Well, not only I don't know. I suspect this all has something to do with 5G and everyone. This is crazy. Everyone that's had the vaccine, when they flip that switch, they're either going to turn into a zombie or a controllable person. I don't know. I
Or
really
maybe they
don't
can just
know.
track you. Maybe they just know where you're at so they can give you location based specific advertising so you can keep buying more shit.
Well, I don't. Maybe that, but I think it's more. Once you can control the people, you control everything.
Well, it's a slippery slope, right? I mean, it's kind of going towards that route. Like they're forcing you to make these medical decisions. And we've got kids that are about the same age. So we
Yep.
see this in our schools too. Right now, yesterday, I spent an hour and a half on a Zoom call where the school administrator was convincing the parents why they need to allow consent forms for the school to authorize a third party testing company to come in and test the kids whenever they want.
Oh my God, no way.
You don't like that, do you?
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm
there was
glad
like there
that's
was like
not
parents that
happening
are
in here, but
lawyers on the phone, and they were like, "I'm a lawyer, and I don't like the way this is written. It gives them way too much. What about privacy? What about HIPAA? What are they doing? When are they testing? And then
yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. Um, did you ever have to do those like scoliosis tests when you were a kid, where
Yeah,
they're like
yeah, yeah,
bring
yeah.
you into the gym, they lift your shirt up, and they check your back?
Yeah.
And what did you remember about that? Do you remember that being like super awkward, and then you're like worried, what if I have it?
Yeah.
Like, and then
It started to put fear in your mind.
yeah, for sure, right? And you get concerned, like, what are the other kids going to say if I have this weird disease with my back? Like then you get like all self-conscious because that's what kids do, right? And that's what anyone does. So I could only imagine being in the COVID lineup testing, and then all of a sudden you find out that you might have COVID, and all the kids are like, oh, Johnny's got COVID. We got to stay away from him, and then he's going to be more ostracized than ever, right?
It's
Because
crazy. I mean, it really is crazy. I've had it. My 5-year-old's had it. No symptoms at all. I didn't even know I had it, but I had it.
yeah, I mean, and that's the case with a lot of people. And we discussed this a little bit, like you're right. I mean, a lot of people, they don't want to talk about that in the media that, hey, people that are dying from it, guess what? They were probably unhealthy. And when I've been on forums or chatted, I'm like, hey, does it make sense to, hit the treadmill and eat a little healthier as an alternative to taking a vaccine? They're like, well, yeah, that takes months to solve versus,
Mhm.
just taking a vaccine, which is seconds. Yeah, I get it that we're in the quick fix society of America where our meals are microwavable and things get delivered within hours to us. I get we want the fast fix, but for your health and your life, there is no quick fixes, right? You've got to put in the work. You've got to eat healthy.
You
You've
gotta
got
put
to
in the work.
exercise a little bit. Guess what? If you're a smoker, you're probably going to die from some kind of disease. Guess what? If
100%.
you're overweight, you're probably going to die from some kind of disease associated with being overweight. If you've got diabetes, that sucks, but there's probably ways you can control that. One, maybe, or two, like adjust your diet accordingly because
I
it's
believe diabetes is reversible. I think if you actually can change your diet enough, then that diabetes will kind of like be like, oh, well, we don't need to go into fight or flight no more. We're good.
maybe it's controllable, right? I mean, the fact is that the human body is extremely resilient, and if you treat it well, it'll treat you well for most people, right? And they never want to share the stats. They do say it like, oh yeah, if you're obese or if you have diabetes, you're triple the odds of having serious side effects or death. Good. Let's keep pumping that information out there when someone's trying to grab a large pizza for dinner for themselves.
Right. Because what I've noticed lately, when like I eat generally pretty good, we don't eat a lot of fast food, but when I do, or I eat something that has a lot of carbs, my body doesn't like it anymore. Like it's
Yeah.
like, no, I'll shut down and just
Yeah, it's
kind of
incredible
pass
how that
out.
happens, right? Once you start eating healthy, as soon as you eat that first bit of unhealthy, you're like, your body says, "What did you just do to me? You were so good with the
Yeah.
salads and the low carbs and the avoiding greasy food." Then you do it, and you're like, you get punished immediately because your
Oh,
body.
it's crazy. I feel like it coming out of my face. I feel like
I
crazy.
talked
Yeah.
to my cousin about that. And I was like, hey, I didn't eat McDonald's for last year, and then I grabbed something from there, and then I felt like shit. And then he's like,
Oh
yeah,
man.
your body gets acclimated to eating junk food, and then once you don't, then you don't have the enzymes and the whatevers to break down that food in your stomach anymore, and it makes you feel bad because you've lost the ability to digest crap food.
Right. It's
And
crazy.
that's what that happens. So yeah, I mean it's a can of worms. I don't know how this is going to pan out. I don't like how they're doing this with our kids. When they were like, "Oh, we're going to do weekly COVID testing," I was like, "Why don't we do weekly cancer testing? Because cancer kills more kids than COVID, and early
Right.
detection can help save their lives. As long as we're doing health improvements at school, great. Let's solve these other problems because COVID has killed like one child in California total. Meanwhile, cancer kills tens of thousands of kids per year,
Right. There's
and we don't do
numbers.
anything about that."
The numbers aren't adding up. Like to me, they just something feels terribly wrong with what's going on. Terribly wrong.
People are starting to speak up about it. I'm starting to see that now. I'm starting to see military people and police people and other people that
Oh,
are
that's getting
being
really bad because
being
what happened
forced.
overseas. Oh man,
Yeah,
just
they're also, they're being forced to take these vaccines. They're saying military need to be forced. I saw someone post something. They're like, hey, if your employer is making you get the vaccine to stay employed there, here's a list of places where they don't require you to take the vaccine. And it listed
right,
the White House, the Pentagon, the CDC, the FDA, and all these other
of
places
course,
where they don't require you to take the vaccine to stay there anymore, right? And it's like,
right,
well, that's only mildly suspicious at the minimum.
100%. It is nuts. It is crazy to see this, but they're really trying to push this. It's like, what is in this that you really want to put in someone's body? But I was reading articles earlier and doing some research, talking to someone else about this. Apparently, I'm not 100% this is true, but they are saying that one thing they did put in the vaccine that is spike protein is HIV. And HIV is attacking the immune system and creating autoimmune disease within the people that have been vaxxed.
Really?
So it is scary. It's like a cocktail. I don't know what they're doing. I'm a spiritual guy, so I believe there's something very like non-spiritual about this.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to pan out. So what's your prediction? How does this pan out over the next 3, 6 months, 9 months, a year?
I predict if you didn't trust and have enough faith in your own faith and in God and not live in fear, then you you submitted and you took something that you were forced to because you're scared.
Yeah,
And I believe when you're scared, you can actually manifest the sickness yourself.
it's true.
But
There's
if you have no fear,
you're going to get you're going to get a stress response from something, right? And that's why,
right,
like when you've got something important come up and you get those little butterflies in your stomach, or you feel like you can't sleep, of course it's going to manifest into an illness because now your immune system has been depressed, and it's easier for you to catch something versus if you're feeling at the top of your game. You've got a good night of sleep and you're rested and you're breathing well and you've been eating good. and you're going to fight through things a lot easier, right? And it's going to be like a minor thing, like it was for you, right?
Right.
I've heard this from a lot of people that are healthy. They're like, yeah, we got it, and we felt bad for a day or two, maybe, and then we're back to normal.
Right. And I mean, the crazy part, my own family owns clinics here in Georgia, and they're actually giving out the vaccine. It's it's so night and day because I'm kind of against it, and they're doing it. I'm like, oh my god, this is just crazy.
Well, not only they're giving it out, they make it sound like they're giving it out, but the fact is
No,
the
they make
government
money.
is paying for it, which means that we're paying for it because we pay taxes to the government. So we are paying for it. These pharmaceutical companies are getting rich from it.
Getting rich, super rich. You get paid per shot, like per shot.
Paid for shots. So it's not free. The
Yeah.
government has just decided that we would pay these pharmaceutical companies that they say that we should trust, even though they constantly have huge lawsuits against them for all the crazy bad things they do to people on a regular basis.
It's something's off. Something's definitely off. But can't. What can we do? I only focus on what I can control at this point.
Until they force it into you somehow, right? That's the sketchy thing.
Shoot, no. I don't know. I live on the outskirts of a town, so I believe if it would happen, it would take a while because I'm not in the city.
Yeah, they're gonna have to hunt you down.
Yeah, well, we're on the outskirts, and where I live, it's kind of like there's a lot of country people and rednecks, and like they won't let none of that stuff go fly.
No,
They won't let it fly. Even
no.
with all these protests, when Black Lives Matters and all the crazy protests were going on back then, I didn't experience none of that because I live out of the city.
Yeah.
But I had friends
More
that lived
isolated.
in the city, and they're calling me like, "Yo, I got hundreds of people in my backyard," and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? Are you serious?" Like, yeah, it's flowing into my neighborhood. I'm like, this is just nuts.
That's not
So
that is nuts. Well, yeah, that makes sense to have a place like that. I always worry about that when I live in Pacific Beach, San Diego, which you're familiar with if you've worked out in Miramar. And yeah, they would have protests just a few blocks away from my house, and I'd have to tell my family like, "Hey, let's avoid the main strips because last thing you want you to do is get
yeah.
bumped into by someone
Hold on
that's a
one
little."
second. Don't hang up.
Yep.
Oh, apparently all hell broke loose. That was my wife, and something's going on, and she may not be able to get the kids. So we'll see how long I can stay on here. But I live right close to the school.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I saw it earlier when I was out and about. I saw cop cars just flying all over the place. So
Something's
I
going
don't
on.
know
What do you
what.
think's going on?
Probably wreck. Where I live closer to a highway, and there's usually if there's a wreck, it's usually pretty bad. Sometimes it'll shut down the whole highway for almost all day.
The loop, right?
If
I
it's
guess there's a big loop. I've never spent time in Atlanta. I mean, I've been everywhere. I've never spent time in Atlanta. I've heard that loop can get kind of busy, huh?
Oh, Atlanta's ridiculously huge. It's like almost an hour from my house to the airport. So Atlanta's humongous. It's one of the biggest cities I've ever experienced. It even feels bigger than. Well, no, it doesn't. I just came back from New York. New York is big. New
Yes.
York is New York is the monster.
New York's
But
big, but
that's
I know Atlanta's kind of sprawled out, right? Because there are a lot of housing, single family housing with yards and stuff like that, and that takes up a lot of space.
yeah, yeah. And well, and they space them out because you know, being in California, I saw I paid attention to how real estate was. I was going to move out there, but then I'm like, all right, the house I could get here compared to what I have back here, no way, I'm not moving.
Yeah, you pay for SoCal sunshine, that's for sure.
Right, it's mind blowing. And then I'm originally from Texas, so But anyway, back to our subject. I
Yeah,
don't know.
COVID in business. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of weird things going on, and I don't know how it pans out. I've got my theories as well as we've chatted about a little bit, but mine get a little bit more ominous because there is some suspicion about it, and especially when you look at the other countries' vaccination rates. Right, we just finished the Olympics in Tokyo. Do you know what the Japan vaccination rate is?
Super low.
Less than 30%.
Yeah, because they know. They know. My wife's Japanese, so I know the Japanese culture very well.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, so what does she say about it? What does she say about why Japan's not taking it?
We don't really talk about it much. she's one of those people. She's been kind of Americanized,
Yep.
and she kind of trusts the government and stuff. But I keep having to say, like, they don't have our best interests at heart. We are business to them. Like, they want to make money off of us, but it's hard for someone else to kind of comprehend that.
Yeah, once you understand campaign finance, and then you realize that pretty much every politician is in the pockets of every corporation,
Yeah,
and it's like they don't represent the constituents anymore, right? They
right.
represent
I mean,
who will pay the
back
most
when
to their campaign finance.
right back when back when I was helping Dr. Ben Carson with his presidential campaign on the marketing and media side when he was running. I learned that and I experienced it then when the day he dropped out is the day that I think it was one of the parties visited and said, if you go against all your religious beliefs, we'll make you win. And he said no. And the next day it was over. Like, he was out.
Wow, that's an interesting thing. Say that again. What was his religious beliefs, and why do they want him to drop it?
Go against everything God.
They wanted him to be like an atheist candidate.
An atheist candidate, or I'll be your puppet type person.
Yeah, they wanted him to fall in line.
Yeah, which is me
And he wasn't for that, right?
So
yeah,
that's me and him.
That's cool. That's cool, man.
But
So you grew to respect the man, huh?
I do, but if he would have been president, unfortunately, I don't think he has big enough balls.
Ah,
Because to be a president, I believe you do have to have some balls. You got to be bold.
You got to be able to
Not
stand up
push
for what
over.
you believe, right? Because people want to push you around. Even if you're the president, people push you harder, right?
They push you harder. And the only person that was never able to be controlled was Trump.
That's true. He was uncontrollable.
Uncontrollable.
For
I'm
better or
pretty
worse,
much
right?
gangster. Let me get this one more time. Yeah, I probably will have to go. I
Okay.
probably will have to go get the kids. So
Oh,
I
no
don't know how
problem. We can
long
wrap
we were
this up.
gonna.
Chris, hey, thank you for spending some time with me and sharing some of your experiences and what's happened during COVID a little bit and chatting for a little bit. But it was great to
What's
have you
your
on.
IG? I don't think I'm following you.
What is my IG? Is it H Pulical or Henish Pulical? Let me take a look. I don't even know myself.
I got it from Carl, but I don't see
Oh,
you on
H
there.
Pulical. Yeah, H Pulical. So HPULICKAL. Should be the only one.
Oh, Henish Political follow. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd love to connect more, get to know you more. Maybe there's some type of synergies. I'm always looking for that, type mastermind, circle
Awesome.
where I know about you and I'm like, someone calls me, oh yeah, let me have you reach out to him.
For sure. Well, let's wrap up this episode. We can chat a little bit more offline. Chris, thank you for joining me. Another great episode of I've Got a Theory.
Awesome.
Catch you on the next episode.
I love it. So will I get a copy? Because I'll
For sure.
add it to my podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna get a copy of this for sure.
Cool, man. Well, good to meet you. Sorry I had to kind of rush out of here, but
you gotta take care of your family. I get that. Talk soon.
Something's going on. Yes, sir.